Good evening and welcome to News Central. My name is Mazino Apil. Top stories this hour. President Tinubu to visit Benue State on Wednesday following last Saturday's attack in the Yelewata community that left scores of residents dead. FCCPC summons airpeace over flight cancellation, unpaid refund. Also coming up, embattled Kenyan police deputy says he will step aside after death of 31-year-old teacher arrested over social media posting. Details coming up now. Welcome again. Now we begin with the latest on the Benue crisis. President Bola Tinubu has said that he will clear his schedule to pay a condolence visit to the people of Benue State on Wednesday, following last Saturday's attack in the Yelewata community that left scores of residents dead. Tinubu said on Monday, when he inaugurated the Great Abuja Water Supply Network in the nation's capital, the president also sympathized with the people of the state and those who lost their loved ones in the attacks. He urged the people of the state to manage their diversity, anger and frustrations and live as one united people. During his stay, Tinubu is expected to meet with all stakeholders, including traditional rulers, political, religious, community leaders and also youth groups to seek lasting solutions to the hostilities.
I sympathize those who have lost their life. I will adjust my program and go see Benue people on Wednesday.
Now, in the meantime, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has called on the federal government and other political leaders to take urgent action in response to the rising violence and bloodshed in Benue State, declaring that the killings have reached an unbearable crescendo. In a statement released on Monday, Atiku decried what he described as the continued silence and indifference of authorities in the face of brutal and heart-wrenching reality in Benue and other parts of the country affected by violent attacks. The former presidential candidate criticized the state's response to public protest over the killings, saying the use of force on demonstrators amounted to a betrayal of leadership. Now, to give more insight into the killings, we're joined by President's Association United Farmers Benue Valley, Dennis Bourbon. Unfortunately, I'm being told that we do not have him now, but we also have former National Coordinator Middle Belt Patriots Zari Yusuf. Zari, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm hoping that you can tell us, you can hear us, Zari.
Yes,
Good. So, Zari, do you believe that these attacks they have ethnic or religious undertones? If so, how should the government address these sensitive divisions that we're seeing in Benue State?
What you're doing on the ground and the victim also farmer. We have the attacks in Benue, particularly at the border between Nasa and Benue. It has really improved that nation. The first issue is the communal issue. It's a long-standing border problem between the Benue and the Nasa country. Along with the other land.
Zari, if you can hear me, could you do us a favor and take out your earpiece so we can have you speak directly to the device? That might be a reason why we're having very bad audio.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we might have to bring you that conversation with Zari on a later occasion. Unfortunately, we cannot hear. Perhaps maybe it might be a case of the connection. So let's move on to other stories now. Now in more news, and this time politics. Former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi has urged Nigerians to move beyond tribal and religious sentiments when choosing leaders. In a statement titled, "What Cannot Be Hidden in Leadership," Obi emphasized four key leadership traits: competence, capacity, character, and compassion as essential for national progress. He also criticized poor government response to recent tragedies and contrasted it with prompt action by leaders in India and South Africa. Obi stated that Nigeria doesn't just need another president, but a true leader with values to steer the country forward. Until such leaders are chosen, he warned the cycle of national pain will continue. The youth population in southern Nigeria has been urged to play a more active role in shaping solutions to local and national issues, especially as the country looks ahead to the 2027 general elections. This charge came during the election of new executives of the Southern Nigerian Youth Congress, Delta State chapter, held in Asaba.
Advocating for the interests of youth in the southern region, advocating for the southern region interests, advocating for development, empowerment for our southern region. That's our aim, our objective.
For me, as far as I'm concerned, the agenda is simple. Southern interest first on national issues, youth engagement and inclusion matters, and then these youth should understand also that it's time for them to begin to hold leadership accountable for public offices. These are the things I see them doing. I want to see them empowering the youth. I want to see them making moves for youth engagement via skill acquisition and all that.
What I think is that they should do what is right, what is fair to nature, and what is good to the conscience.
They must ensure that the organization sensitize our young people in terms of making them to understand the implication of drug abuse, which is eating so much into the young people of today. They must understand that this rich quick syndrome must be looked into properly, because a lot of young people have been misled by their friends into it because they don't really understand. Everybody believes making money quick is through Yahoo.
The Federal Competitions and Consumer Protection Commission has summoned the management of Air Peace Limited following multiple complaints from passengers regarding non-refunded ticket fares, even in cases where the airline cancelled scheduled flights. Although not mentioned in the statements, the summons comes days after Senator Adams Oshiomhole and Air Peace officials were embroiled in a dispute after he reportedly arrived late for a flight. A statement issued by the Director of Corporate Affairs, Odaje Ijagu, disclosed the directive on Monday in Abuja. In a formal notice dated June 3rd, 2025, the Commission ordered Air Peace to appear at its Abuja headquarters on Monday, June 23rd, 2025, to address growing public outcry and allegations of consumer rights violations. And the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has arraigned Godwin Emefiele, former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, over the illegal acquisition of 753-unit housing estate in Abuja. Emefiele was arraigned on Monday before Yusuf Halilu, judge of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, on an 8-count charge. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. The FCC accused Emefiele of conspiring with Eric Ocheme, who is currently at large, to acquire the property located at Plot 109 Cadastral Zone C09 Local Goma District, Abuja. He was granted bail in the sum of 2 billion naira with 2 sureties in like sum. Now to infrastructure. President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated the Greater Abuja Water Supply Network loops of the federal capital city, Abuja, to enhance the distribution of potable water. He described the initiative as a transformative project that enhances national development. He lauded the partnership between the administration of the federal government, or rather the Federal Capital Territory, and the Chinese government. Now, in his remarks, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, appreciated the President for the continual support given to the Federal Capital Territory, the FCTA.
The government provided 85%, while the federal government and FCC provided 15%. And that's to take care of loops 1, 2, 5, and 6. I want to sincerely thank you that under this administration, this job has been completed, and today you are commissioning the water. You've not only stopped there. Last year, when you visited China, luckily for us, I was part of the delegation that went to with you. There, FCT also signed an agreement with CGC to provide water at rural areas. I want to say today that we almost completed with the procurement process to give water to Buhari, give water to Kubwa, give water to Karu, and some of the communities. So you are not only providing water to the city, you are also providing water to the satellite town. We sincerely thank you.
Together, we are showing the world that partnership built on mutual respect and shared prosperity can deliver real impact. As we commissioned this vital project, all the residents and stakeholders to protect these investments, use the water wisely, and work with government to ensure its sustainability. It is my honor now, therefore, now to commission the Greater Abuja Water Supply Network to the glory of God and service to humanity. May God continue to bless all our workers. May God bless this project, bless the city of Abuja, and bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We're now going on a short break, and when we come back, more news inside the 6 o'clock hour. Welcome back, and now we return to a previous story on the Benue crisis, where we have standing by with us former National Coordinator, Middle Belt Patriots, Zari Yusuf, to have that conversation with us. Zari, you're welcome back again. Thank you very much. Now, from earlier, I was asking if you believe that the attacks have ethnic or religious undertones, and if you do believe so, how should the government address these very sensitive divisions?
Yes, I would say to you there is, actually, it's not even just the undertone, it's strictly religious, at least religious in the aspect of the targeted communities. It has been a little over a decade when this pattern of attacks, began spreading across regions, different regions of the Middle Belt, primarily Christian communities, where an armed group would come in, basically kill tens, hundreds, put women through, unspeakable, things, and they take their leave. And it's on record that we've never had a scenario where we have had a direct confrontation between our security forces and these attackers. So yes, it is religious with elements of ethnicity, because primarily the perpetrators are made up of basically the Fulani Islamist militia. And they have always been covered under false stories such as either bandits, hiders, and all of that. Sometimes a clear case of, a mission to annihilate the Christian peoples of the Middle Belt is made to look like a farmer-hider clash. Now, at this stage, looking at the patterns of attacks, whether on the plateau, at some point in time in southern Kaduna, Benue, Taraba, different parts of the Middle Belt, different parts of Christian-dominated parts of the Middle Belt, we don't have any option rather than to understand or come to terms with the fact that it's a genocide. It's a genocide, it's expansionist in nature. And to the question of what the government could do about it, I think, first of all, the government must demonstrate that it is not complicit in these massacres. And when I use the word complicity, I'm trying to bring the example of what just happened in Benue. Before this particular attack, we had a scenario where women, after an attack where tens were killed, women came out to stage a peaceful protest, and they were met by a brutal force of our security forces. And just a couple of days ago, after the massacre of about 200, with many others that have been burnt to ashes, unrecognized, I'm talking about girls in their early teen age, children of about 6, 10, 11, women, mostly women and children, were wasted. And people just came out to peacefully protest. And the government was able to mobilize and deploy a force to suppress and crush that protest, using helicopters, using water cannons, using even fire shooting at people, using tear gas and all of that. And it leads us to question if the government is this speedy in organizing that kind of force to crush civil, people simply saying we are tired of getting killed, this is a genocide, we are being annihilated, then what stops the government from dealing with these terrorists? So one of the ways is that the government must come out with its hands clean so that we get to understand that it is not a policy of the ruling party to annihilate the Christian peoples of the Middle Belt. Because at this point, we are less seeing it as a failure of government, we are seeing it as complicity. Because if you can't protect us because you believe you do not have the manpower or the resources to do so, then where do the resources come when we come out to protest and you begin to attack us with tear gas and all of that? About 3 people were fired. Somebody is currently undergoing treatment because of bullet wounds.
Now, Zari,
as a result
if you
of
can
this,
hear me.
Not from the terrorists.
I'm hoping you can hear me,
yeah,
Zari.
I can hear you.
No, thank you very much. Now, these are
Yes,
very serious allegations against the government. I mean, complicity when it comes to religious bias or religious preference, or even complicity in itself. Well, let's go back to the anatomy of these attacks. How easy is it for these herdsmen or gunmen to actually invade these communities, maim and kill, without them being engaged or arrested? If you want to use your previous submission of complicity there, are you saying that the government has not in any way tried to perhaps maybe engage these terrorists?
To the best of my knowledge, and as somebody from the Middle Belt, I would say to you, no, we don't know of such things. When I take you back to, I think 2022, there was a time when there was this particular massacre in Mungu that claimed about 400 lives. Now, until date, we don't have any idea of how many people were either arrested or whether the military went chasing them. On the contrary, I think about 4 vigilantes who dared to stay back and watch over what was left of their community. I think they were carrying 10 guns or so. The military took them out. And unfortunately, we woke up one day and we saw their pictures being displayed as the aggressors, as the terrorists that have been neutralized. And it's quite unfortunate. So because of this attitude, we understand it's easy to move such military hardware because, come on, jumping on a community and killing 200 people, you don't do that with bow and arrow. You don't do that with 10 guns. And then the time you will take, I'm not trying to stir emotions here, but those little girls and those children, that family, we don't know whether they shot them first or what did they do to them, but they were in a room and they were burnt almost to ashes. The length of time it takes to carry out these attacks leaves people wondering how far is the closest military base from there. That is one. And then the time lapse between when people just come out to say, government, you are ignoring us, there is a genocide, please do something. And then, between then and the time you are able to coordinate helicopters, you are able to coordinate armored tanks, you are able to coordinate a brutal force that will come and crush the protest immediately. It leaves more questions than answers.
Now, Zari,
so until the government demonstrates...
Zari, if you can hear, just a second, yes. Zari, I just wanted to get this in and ask regarding the Chief of Army Staff's recent relocation to Benue State. These hasn't stopped any killings in any way, has it? Or was that just a ghost type endeavor in itself, would you say?
Yes, I would refer to that as a ghost endeavor. As a matter of fact, I think the recent massacre is more of a statement being sent that it's not exactly as if you have anything to do. And why I sometimes fear that this, I said, unless there is a clear demonstration that the hands of the government or the APC-led regime is clean, we feel that these people are enjoying a certain kind of cover, either directly from the ruling party or from key elements of the ruling party. Because you can't explain a scenario where they attack, they can kill 200 people, they've left. And so far, you've never had the story of anybody going into the forest to comb that forest and to, look for them. They could come in on motorbikes, they could come in on foot, and they go back to their camps. and they will never allow the people to arm. So I think the presence of the Chief of Defense Staff in that place is more ceremonial than actually anything tactical. Because the truth of the matter is that if it was serious, by now we should be seeing bullet-ridden bodies of terrorists, you know, forests being combed and all of that. But it looks as if even the so-called special forces that are being assembled in Benue, they are meant to suppress any civil unrest or any protest from the people. And it's quite unfortunate. So his relocation there hasn't solved anything. I think it's just empty, it's ghost, and it's quite unfortunate. And I would maintain that unless the government demonstrates clearly that its hands are clean by taking actions that are actions that match the activities of these terrorists, then the people in the Middle Belt don't have an option but to believe that it is a certain policy to annihilate them for the sake of religious expansionism. And we have suffered these kinds of attacks for over a decade.
Zari Yusuf, indeed, these are very worrying instances in Benue State. And News Central will continue to follow the progress of these stories, and hopefully, with the president's visit on Wednesday, would see an end to the killings. Thank you very much for joining us on the news. Now to health matters. The Malaria Consortium says over 200 million cases of malaria was recorded across the world in 2023, while Africa accounted for 95% of deaths recorded from this data. It is based on the this alarming statistic that stakeholders in the Plateau State gathered to brainstorm on ways to curb the spread of malaria and certainly death toll arising from it. News Central's Chizobanyanwe here tells us more.
This is the commencement of the 2025 Seasonal Malaria Chemopreventive Program in Jos Plateau State, an intervention to save the lives of children between the ages of 3 to 59 months, especially during the rainy season when the disease blooms. Available data says after pneumonia and cholera diseases, malaria remains the third most leading cause of death in children below the age of 5. Of this, Nigeria accounts for 3 in every 10 deaths across the world. It is against this backdrop that stakeholders have gathered here to brainstorm on the way forward while improving on the successes recorded so far.
I am particularly thrilled to say that Plateau State has once again demonstrated its commitment to the health and well-being of its citizens by achieving the top position among the 21 implementing states in 2024. This achievement is a reflection of our collective efforts and unwavering determination to combat malaria.
Wife of the governor contributed her quota after she was enrolled as an ambassador of the 2025 Seasonal Malaria Chemopreventive Campaign.
I call on all the good people of Plateau State to take advantage of the SMC initiative to protect our children from malaria by ensuring all under 5 children have access to the SPAQ medications that will be distributed from house to house for 4 days every month for the next 5 months, from this month, June, to October 2025.
In collaboration with the Malaria Consortium, the Plateau State government has approved 800 health facilities to be used in the state, over 11,000 ad hoc staff with counterpart funding for this campaign.
To community leaders and traditional authorities, your voice drives acceptance. Keep championing this cause. And to all stakeholders, let us stay united in this fight against malaria. Let malaria end with us. Let us reinvest, let us imagine, and let us ignite our passion towards the fight against malaria.
It is hoped that the achievements recorded in 2024 in this regard will be improved upon for a reduction in death rates of children suffering malaria in Plateau State. In Jos, Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Aniui.
We're now going to break, and when we return, Kenya's embattled Deputy Inspector General of Police announces stepping aside after investigations begin into death of teacher in custody. We'll be back. Welcome back. Now, Kenya's embattled Deputy Inspector General of Police announced on Monday that he would step aside as investigations begin into a death in custody that has provoked protests and widespread outrage. 31-year-old Albert Anjuan died earlier this month after he was arrested over social media posts accusing Deputy Inspector General Eliud Kipkoech Legat of corruption. While police initially said he died in his cell after hitting his own head against the wall, a government pathologist said the injuries were unlikely to be self-inflicted. Ojwang's death reignited simmering anger over police brutality in the East African nation, with demonstrators in the capital Nairobi calling for Legat's resignations. Tanzanian court has granted opposition leader and Chadema party chair Tundu Lissu request to act as his own counsel in the ongoing treason case against him. Lissu reportedly cited a lack of privacy and concerns over surveillance during consultations with his legal team as the reason for his request. The development came after Lissu, who was presented before the Kisutu Resident Magistrate Court on Monday, June the 16th, requested to personally handle his defense. He informed the court that he had to communicate with his lawyers via phone from a confined room, expressing concerns that their discussions might be monitored or secretly recorded. The rest of the world now. Iran's state broadcaster was bombed live on air during an Israeli attack aimed at wiping out what it said was the country's propaganda megaphone. The blast occurred at Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting IRIB building as the presenter was lambasting Israel before she was seen leaving the broadcast. Several employees were reportedly killed in the strike. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz warned Iran's state television and radio, which he labeled the propaganda and incitement megaphone, were about to disappear. It comes as Iran's leadership shows the first sign of backing down by urgently indicating it is open to negotiations to end the hostilities.
وطن صدای متجاوز به صدای حق و حقیقت است. آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلود استادیوم.
Now, tensions are running high as leaders of the world's most powerful democracies gather in the Canadian Rockies for the year's G7 summit. What was expected to be a meeting focused on trade and unity has quickly shifted to an urgent diplomatic crisis following Israel's surprise military strikes on Iran. As the war of words and weapons intensifies, President Donald Trump and other G7 leaders face mounting pressures to chart a path toward de-escalation. For News Central international correspondent Afia Hagan here has more.
In the shadow of the Canadian Rockies, the world's most powerful democracies are gathering at a tense time. Leaders of the G7, including US President Donald Trump, are meeting in the remote town of Kananaskis, facing a rapidly escalating crisis between Iran and Israel. Just 2 days before the summit, Israel launched a surprise military offensive against Iran, citing ongoing nuclear threats. The strikes carried out with American-made weapons have shocked global leaders and overshadowed the summit's original agenda. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney had hoped to focus the summit on unity and economic stability, but now attention has shifted to diplomacy and de-escalation. Canada is said to be rallying G7 members to make a joint statement, though it's unclear if that will call for restraint or back Israel's right to defend itself. For Trump, the summit is a return to the world stage and to a country he once mocked as America's 51st state. While tensions with Canada have cooled under Carney's leadership, old scars remain from Trump's clash with former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The crisis in the Middle East is now being linked to another war in Ukraine. EU leaders say Iran's weapons are being used in both theatres and call for a unified response. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is attending the summit, hoping for renewed support and possibly a face-to-face with Trump. As G7 talks begin, Trump arrives with a mix of bravado and controversy, facing global pushback over tariffs, military posturing, and what critics say is a dangerous shift towards authoritarianism. With military tensions high and divisions brewing amongst allies, this year's G7 summit may be one of the most consequential yet, not just for diplomacy, but for global stability. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
We're going to break now. When we return, business. Welcome now, business. In Nigeria, the sachet economy has flourished at the intersection of affordability and convenience. Now, micro-packaged goods ranging from instant coffee to cooking oil and even drinking water or rather have become an essential part of daily life. However, beyond its accessibility lies a deeper narrative shaped by consumer habits, business dynamics and environmental concerns. News Central's business correspondent Chamunda Beng explores how this trend is evolving into a nationwide staple, its impact on businesses and the environmental challenges it presents. Here's the report.
No money for a full pack or bulk buys? It's not a problem at all. Today, everything can be found in a smaller, single-use, pocket-friendly package. Everything from shampoo, water, bread spread, alcohol, sanitation products, you name it, I'm sure you can find it in a sachet. The existence of sachets is nothing new, but what was once a convenience packaging has now become a necessity brought on by increasing poverty rates and the purchasing power of individuals taking a sucker punch to the gut, while combined with companies' needs to survive in today's economy.
Colloquially known as sachetization, this practice has become a part of Nigeria's market landscape for some time. However, in recent years, brands have intensified their focus on this strategy, adapting to shifting economic conditions. We spoke to Nigerians to gauge how often they buy sachet products and why.
In the past, I was not used to that. I used to buy tin one. But at a time, I didn't even like the idea of buying sachet because I thought that that belongs to lower class poor people. But all of a sudden, I found myself buying it. We have fake sachet milk, fake sachet Milo. I know. So the problem is it's very easy to fake.
We didn't really buy sachet products. So let's say beginning of Tinubu's regime that we just started buying sachet products. They write on the sachet that the quality is still the same, but no, it is not.
Oúnjẹ tó dààmú, àwọn oúnjẹ tó wà òkè là ń jẹ. Kò sẹ́ni tí òun kó ra míìkì alágolo, kó ra bọ́ǹfìtà alágolo nígbà tó bá sówó, tó bá dẹ̀ ń ké fún tíì, so a lọ ra sachet sùn. Quality yàtọ̀ kò yàtọ̀, káṣà ti mú nǹkan náà ni, because of the situation in Nigeria.
To sustain their businesses, petty traders have shifted towards selling sachet products rather than bulk or full-pack items. However, while this approach offers convenience to buyers, it doesn't always translate to ease or profitability for sellers.
They buy mostly in sachets because a full pack would be very expensive. You know, some goods, some of them you see 50 inside one carton, 20 inside one carton. And somebody that wants to manage like 2,000 naira to buy food stuff or 5,000, you would like to buy small sachets. You know, if you say in carton, you sell it once. If the gain is 500, you make it once, you rush to market and get it. But if it's sachets, maybe, let me say, you are selling in carton and you are making 500 naira gain in carton. Maybe when you sell in sachets, you can make 1, 2. But that sachet can take you 1 month.
Economic and policy analyst Faiz Mohammed delves into factors that led to the boom of Nigeria's sachet economy.
For many low-income consumers, which constitutes almost 75% of the population, purchasing goods in small quantities is the only viable option. It really reflects their survival strategy rather than lifestyle choice, and it's shaped by economic constraints and inconsistent income flows. as an entrepreneur, if you are creating products for the sachet economy, you can scale gradually and target low-income segments that form the vast majority of the population. It's innovative in that sense, because it can also help you with pricing and product strategies. But it also encourages high competition, which means the profit margins are always going to be very thin.
The exact percentage of Nigerians who solely rely on sachet products is challenging to pinpoint. However, sachet marketing has become a widespread aspect of Nigeria's economy, especially among lower-income earners. A large share of the population, potentially up to 80%, regularly consume sachet products, painting a grim picture of Nigeria's current economic realities. In Lagos for News Central, I am Chamun Dabing.
Ghana is accelerating efforts to implement the African Continental Free Trade Area by shifting focus from raw commodity exports to value-added trade, especially in gold, oil, and cocoa. At the ongoing Ghana IATF 2025 Business Roadshow, Minister for Trade Honorable Elizabeth Ofusu-Adjeri said over 2,000 MSMEs are receiving firm-level support through the National AFCFTA Coordination Office. Ghana has led trade commission or missions to Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda to secure supply contracts. The IATF 2025 set for September in Algeria will host over 2,000 exhibitors and 35,000 buyers. AFCFTA Secretary General Wamkele Mene and Afrexim Bank's Dr. Yemi Kale emphasized the fair's role in mobilizing deals and deepening economic integration. Ghana is seen as a model for AFCFTA, the rollout driving regional industrialization and inclusive growth. Now, sports. South African athletes impressed at the 7th leg of the Diamond League in Stockholm on Sunday. Prudence Segosdiso secured third place in the women's 800-meter with a time of 1 minute 58 seconds and valuable points behind winner Georgia Hunter-Bell of Great Britain and Kenya's Mary Moraa. In a men's 100-meter pre-program event, Bradley Nkoana finished second in 10.23 seconds, just behind Ghana's Benjamin Asamati Gift. Now, Gift Leotela was disqualified for a false start, making his Diamond League debut. Abdu Rahman Karim placed 5th in the men's 200-meter with a time of 20.52 seconds. Athletics South Africa applauded the performance, calling them crucial for athlete development ahead of the World Championships in Tokyo this September. And Salernitana players and staff were struck by severe food poisoning following their 2-0 defeat to Sampdoria in the first leg of their Serie B relegation playoffs. Upon returning to base, 21 individuals fell ill, prompting ambulance intervention and hospitalization for 16 people, including 8 players. Training was cancelled as a result. Authorities are investigating the hotel where the team stayed, which also provided the in-flight meal. And in more sports news, the ICC has confirmed the full schedule for the 2025 Women's World Cup, set to take place in India from the 30th of September to the 2nd of November. Host India will play Sri Lanka in the opening match in Bengaluru, while England begin their campaign at on the 3rd of October against South Africa at the same venue. Australia, the reigning champions, start against New Zealand on the 1st of October in Indore, Colombo. Sri Lanka will host Pakistan's group games, one semi-final and the final if Pakistan qualifies. Other Indian host cities include Guwahati and Visakhapatnam. I beg your pardon. All 8 teams will face each other once before the semi-finals on the 29th and the 30th of October. That's all this hour. Well, before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. President Tinubu is set to visit Benue State on Wednesday. following last Saturday's attack in Yelewata community that left scores of residents dead. And FCCPC has summoned air peace over flight cancellations, unpaid refunds. We also told you that embattled Kenya police deputy said he will step aside after death of 31-year-old teacher arrested over social media post in custody. Do remember, you may send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on your screens now. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.